Hey guys, this is Chris Adval from chrisadval.com, and I am reviewing PPE, basically. You know, the photo convention that we have every year in New York City, PhotoPlus Expo. This is the first time I'm reviewing it. I've been there. This is my third time going there, and the first impression, was the usual, but I usually use my alias to sign up. Now it is free if you sign up by a certain time. But I missed that deadline by a couple of weeks because I thought I already registered, but I did not. So I had to pay $20, unfortunately, for the expo. And by the time I got there to, get in and stuff, I was denied, unfortunately, because I was using an alias, and that's illegal, apparently, like not allowed according to policy. Obviously, you don't get a refund, unfortunately. And I told them I've been doing this, every year. I have badges at home. It was looser or not enforced, basically, in the past. And now this time I couldn't get in. So I had to figure out something. So I already had, you know, coupon codes, so I just re-registered on the spot, literally, as my legal name. Unfortunately, I'm just saying what I experienced, and a big warning to people who do use aliases in the business, to not sign up because they're very serious about that. Um, you know, I'm assuming because of terrorism and stuff like that. Um, being super paranoid and super protective and super secured and stuff like that. Even though anyone could just sign up, as long as you have an ID. Obviously, you could just sign up as long as you have that ID to to show that you're that person. So, anyways, here is the few things that I thought was most interesting at the expo. Now, before I go into the to the gear, which is obviously Photo Plus Expo, it's mostly about because that's where vendors show off their new products and stuff like that, and other stuff like educational material and stuff like that. Now, the most important thing for me when I go after experiencing my first year I realized it wasn't about the gear at all. Really, it was not about the gear. It was about networking with other photographers or other, you know, vendors even to, see what you can learn and see, on partnerships or stuff like that, etc., etc. Obviously, for me, that's I don't do partnerships as of right now because I'm still much lower level compared to other people who are in that level, and I don't really intend to be an educator, as a primary source of income, or you know, if I do become an educator, it's gonna be the least prioritized um, revenue stream of mine in the future because I'm more of a creator. I love to create. I cannot just go on and just live off of just being an educator. I need to create as much as humanly possible and inspire others. That's what I want to do. An educator does inspire and do create. It's just a little more differently. Obviously, people go in that direction because there's a lot more revenue than photography today does. It's being so oversaturated, and people are getting better as the whole country overall is getting better and better. So it's harder to compete, with quality and stuff like that because everyone's getting better. Unfortunately, and fortunately, it's a double-edged sword. Unfortunately, so this is I'm gonna go over a small clips I did take from B footage. So here's some B footage. I'm just obviously I'm gonna make some comments. Bear in mind, you know there wasn't like a huge amount of interest of B footage, so I just gonna repeat. So oh well. Now now here is one of the items that I thought was really interesting. Now I am not an event shooter anymore. I don't shoot weddings or anything like that anymore. And now this is called Media Booth Pro. Now this is really interesting. All right, so what it looks like, Media Booth Pro is, as you can see on the video itself, It's where it's a monitor like on the lower middle area, and there's two lights, and obviously in the middle is a camera. Like it looks like it's just one big box, and just go, and that's it, and that's your booth. Pretty easy, in my opinion. Now, I don't know every little bit of the product. I'm just telling you guys tidbits of what piqued my interest and what could be applied to. And obviously, this thing could be applied to event photography, or as an add-on for event photographers or photo booth companies. Obviously, they could use that. Now, from what it looks like from the size compared to other things, this is much smaller and compact and much easier to carry than a big giant thing. And I'm assuming the cost is probably less. I would recommend checking out MediaBoothPro.com for more information on that. Alright, this is Vuze. I can't pronounce it probably. It's called Vuze, so it's basically a new 3D type of capture device. So this also piqued my interest. As you can see, it's one of those Oculus Rift type of deals. Obviously, it's not a video game or anything like that, but that really also piqued my interest. Vuze is a 360 camera. Vuze is a 360 VR camera. Now, this one we're looking at, it appears to be $799 at this time, but from what it looks like, I'm looking at the videos from the B footage and the I captured. It does look really interesting. That really piqued my interest. I do recommend, for those who didn't intend PPE, I recommend looking into this. I think it'll be very, very cool to have one. Alright, now this is the one item that I really, really want to play with, because in my area there's no camera shops. So I can't play with new toys, can't play with new tools, or anything at all, basically. This is a Sony A7RII. This is a beast, literally. The only really confusing part, obviously, I use a Canon, as everyone knows, 60. This was a very different type of camera. I was not used to it at all. I was trying to use autofocus, and it was very confusing. And it just kept on hunting. So I had to have the person there help me to turn off continuous focus. Continuous focus on here, it looks very different, so different that I cannot work the camera, basically. Once it's in continuous focus, it's very confusing because it just zooms in and out constantly. It's very confusing. I'm not a sports shooter or action shooter, so I don't know if it's good or not for that. But I used to shoot wet-ends, and that's a lot of action, and I did use continuous mode on that. It's a lot easier to use on that on a Canon, at least because I used a Canon at that time. I don't know if I could get used to using any Sony that does this, where it just zooms in and out on your LCD like that. It's very confusing. So obviously it's very different. It might take some time for me to get used to it. I'm planning to own one of these, either a A7R2 and then I'm also planning to own the A7S II. Now, the reason why I want the A7S, even though it's only 16 megapixels, I'm not used to that because I started on a Canon T2i. That was 20 megapixels. So I'm not used to the much lower megapixels. And to me, megapixels is a big deal just because I want to have a higher resolution where I'm prepared to deliver it to a client, which is more commercial type of clients I want to eventually serve, which they normally demand medium format level type of images, obviously, because the megapixels are much higher. I think they start at 40, 50, and 60 for medium format, and they demand it and they get it. That's how it is. So in order to compete, you have to have a medium format or an export of a photograph that's medium format level, like megapixels wise and resolution. Obviously, DSLRs will never be as good as a medium format, but it's close to it because you're saving a lot of money buying a DSLR that has high resolution, like 50, 60 megapixels, compared to a medium format is going to cost you $60,000. Sometimes you can find it, if you're lucky, you can find one that's $20,000 or $15,000. I'm not going to go down that route. Maybe in 20, 30 years, but at this time, I don't see myself doing that. So I plan on owning both. Hopefully, I'm really, really hopeful that I could own both. I'm not going to own both right away, obviously. The A7RII, it will be a definite second to me. Just because I don't shoot studio right now, and it's not main focus of what I do in my work. I shoot mostly outdoors, using the natural light as much as humanly possible, low light situations. So the A7S, for me, that would be the ultimate camera for me at this time. Obviously, there's other alternatives where I could go go through the Canon lineup. But the thing is that the A7S II, it's super, super, super clean at 100,000 ISO. Compared to my 64,000 ISO and a 60, it's nowhere near comparison, basically. So the more I could shoot natural light very cleanly and not need to carry a ton of equipment on like lighting and stuff like that, the more I could keep my costs low, for not needing to hire assistants to hold modifiers or other lighting equipment. And it's a lot faster and cheaper for the client. Where I'm in that low level, business level right now, where I need to keep costs as low as humanly possible, especially in my area where the value is not really that high for photography, especially for what I deliver and, fashion and environmental portraiture and stuff like that. All right, now this is a 360 camera. Now, I really didn't like the size. The size is for people who are maybe doing like a round table meeting or something like that, or like hanging out. People, it's more lifestyle people basically should or own one of these, or just regular people. I don't see a professional owning one of these, excluding people who do already have a good following, and they have a team they work with all the time, and they have followers already established into their, they're an influencer basically. Influencers, I think, could really use this 360 camera very well, where you can just put it on a table and people will follow, especially if it's live and it's 360. People will love that. But if you're a nobody, like right now, I'm a nobody, unfortunately, it has no use for me. Now, if I could get one of those 360 cameras to be on my camera, like DSLR, Canon, and like more like GoPro size, that would be awesome. Just because people could play with it on either YouTube or other players where you could see 360, and people will like that, I think, because it's different. Now, for me, I did ask them. It's not a product, or it might be a feature thing where they're going to get smaller, where you can just put it as an action camera. That I would buy, definitely. Especially if you could connect it to your phone and then send the footage wirelessly, and then the phone could just send it to Facebook Live. That would be perfect. Just because Facebook Live is where all the audiences is right now, and then that's how you get most reach at this moment with live footage and video. Let's move on to. All right, this is the lens flipper. Now, I did see this last year, and I'm not sure about it, honestly. I haven't tried it myself. I wouldn't mind it. I definitely would think an event photographer would benefit from it very well, especially not needing to carry a book bag with you everywhere, especially with all these stories on Petapixel mentioning people people's bags are getting stolen. So if you have a lens flipper, you can just carry two lenses on you while you have one camera with one lens, and you can just flip through. You have three lenses on you, on your straps. So one strap for two lenses, and then one strap for your camera, and one lens attached to that camera. That'll be much easier than having a book bag either on you or hidden away, in my opinion. Now, I don't shoot. As I mentioned, I don't shoot events anymore. It's not my thing, so I don't see a use for it for myself, unless, because I do shoot on location a lot, and I do love it. But the thing is that my alternative is, because I like to save money as much as possible with my shoestring budget, is I have a fish jacket, fisherman's or hunter's jacket, and I just put one of my lenses in there. Now, obviously, the 7200 won't fit in there unless you squeeze it in, but it definitely could carry it. Obviously, it's a little more trickier, and because it could flop around and stuff like that. So, yeah, it does save me like what, $100. This probably this thing costs. I would look it up. Definitely intrigued me. I do recommend anyone who does weddings and events and stuff like that. Highly recommend it. If you do use multiple lenses in events, I'm pretty sure wedding photographers do, especially if you're a prime lens user, you're constantly switching. Especially if you have one camera, you're constantly switching. If you have two cameras, who knows? It depends on how many lenses you have in that lineup of primes. If I was doing weddings, I would definitely have a lot of primes, and maybe like one or two zooms. It depends on the wedding. But I don't shoot weddings anymore, so that's not my thing anymore. Alright, now I was looking into LED lighting because I'm getting into video a little bit more, just a tiny bit, because it does cost money, unfortunately. Now I was looking into this ring light right here because I do love the ring light look, especially when you're doing solo, like by yourself videos and just talking, like some YouTubers do, and they have ring LED lights. So there's also other light panels on there, so that intrigued me. I do recommend. Yeah. Now I did forget to get the name of that product or those products, but that's what intrigued me. Let's move on. Now I did see the Wacom before in the past. It's always intrigued me. My friend had it. I tried it for a little bit, and I didn't like it. It felt extremely awkward. Obviously, it might take some time, probably a couple months, maybe a year, to probably get used to and master, compared to at the current level I'm at with a mouse and keyboard on Photoshop retouching. But it still intrigues me to eventually have one, and especially at this size where you could just, instead of like a small one, you could just draw on the screen. That would be really cool, in my opinion. Now it depends on the screen, obviously. Obviously they might obviously these might cost a whole lot more than the ones just a pad and then you just look at your own screen. But I think having a screen where you could just draw on and stuff like that, or like retouch just by touching the screen, that would be really cool. It would probably speed up the process eventually with practice and stuff like that. And it will feel like you're more of a drawer or a painter, and that would be really cool. Even though I do kind of feel like that as a retoucher now, but with a keyboard and mouse, it does take you away from that reality a little bit. Not a whole lot, but if once you start drawing on a monitor, then you're gonna feel like a painter would, basically. And that would be really cool. Now I'm not a drawer or a painter at all, so but it looks cool, and it might put me in that realm with them a little bit, at least. Let's move on to the next. Alright, these are the Bowens light. Now, I'm a huge fan of their mount. I use impact lights, which is Bowens mount, on at least a 300 watt second one. But the thing is that these are the ones are like TTL and the HSS and stuff like that, which I would love to have, but I just the price points are really high compared to like. It's about the same price as Pro Photo. It's like, I'd rather have a Pro Photo, honestly, because their name, unfortunately. But you know, I normally go by spec because I'm a tech nerd. So if it's the tech is better on the Pro Photo, and I could afford it, I would go for the Pro Photo. But if there's another tech where it's better and it's cheaper, I would go for that. I don't really care about the name too much. Obviously, the bigger the name, the more trust and reliability there is, and obviously there's more warranties to keep that trust. I'm actually looking into the Adval rebranded from the Chinese products, where it's XPLOR, that's TTL HSS lights. I'm looking into at least one of them. At first, I was looking into the Endra, which I liked at first until the Explorer came out, which is a little cheaper, a couple $100 difference, but more power, I think. I don't have the information in front of me, but I definitely am eyeing for the Explorer. At least own one of them eventually. That's my goal. Let's move on. Alright, this is called GTI graphics technology, where you could see certain prints, which they're apparently all printed same way, and how it looks different on certain lighting. Now they have apparently certain bulbs where it looks to perfection, and it's meant to look perfection. So if you're a printer, I would definitely get this. I'm eventually gonna be a printer. It might not be in the next 5 years, but maybe 10 years, hopefully. I would definitely have one of these. They have a much bigger one, which I definitely would fell in love with. I highly recommend checking them out. Alright, now I'm just checking out these gimbal stabilizers because I'm getting into video very, very slowly. Very slowly. It is very expensive. And I have terrible business skills to get in cash flow to afford these at this moment. So, these are the ones I was looking at just because I get to play with them, obviously. And I didn't know the name at all. Basically, when I don't recognize the name, I assume at that moment they're much cheaper. Unfortunately, this one is not too much cheaper, but if you compare it to the big name brands, it's a little cheaper. This really intrigued me, and I did play with it. I really want one of these. Once I start doing cinematography, that would be really fun. Now I don't remember the name of this, unfortunately, but I do have it laying around somewhere, so I'll just put it in the text. Now this also intrigued me. I do see this in DIY website. I do see this on DIY websites and other YouTubers where they make this. I do see a use for it, and it intrigued me. At least a use for it, not for me personally at this moment, because I don't intend to be a product or video shooter for products. This would be perfect for product shooters. Definitely, because I used to be a product shooter, even though I still do it once in a blue moon, but this is an item where you can just put on and it turns. Obviously, it looks like it's lagging a little bit if you see it, because it's being played from the phone. Now, I don't know much information about it. I do recommend looking it up, where if it turns continuously without stopping every few seconds, I'm assuming it's stopping the wheel every few times for the cell phone could take the photo, and then you just basically play it back in a video, or just you have multiple shots and time lapse it. That's basically what I'm assuming. But I do recommend looking it up. This is what intrigued me a lot at PhotoPlus Expo 2016. Now I wasn't sure about what drone it was. It's definitely a quadcopter. It looks like, because it's six propellers. Now I'm not a drone user at this moment. I do plan on getting a Mavic, because It's very affordable and it's very good. That's why I'm planning to get one of those. Now, I did get this B footage just because I wanted to talk about drones. So I'm definitely getting a drone sooner or later. I highly recommend anyone listening look into Mavic, DJI Mavic. Look into it. It's one of the best out there. At first, I thought it was going to be Karma, and then the Mavic came out, and I liked it better. And I still liked the Karma at that time, which wasn't too bad, until Petapixel mentioned about the power issue. So there goes the Karma. Rest in peace, unfortunately. Now these are other lights. These are other LED lights I was looking into. Obviously, these are much bigger than the other ones. And this is more meant for interviewing productions. I'm definitely looking into that long one right there and the one next to it with the grid. Definitely. I do intend to do cinematography where it's scripted stuff, but I also intend to do some documentaries in my life. Hopefully, that's my intention. Just because, I want to tell, and I want to document that stuff that's going on and tell that story, and in a nice way possible, with interviewing people and stuff like that, and sending that message of certain issues that are important to me personally. Now here's some B footage of Peter Hurley. Now I do like Peter Hurley. He's a headshot photographer from Headshot Crew, and everyone pretty much knows him. No need to explain. But it's the footage I got it on purpose because educating. He's an educator, and he's also a photographer, more of an educator these days. But that's one of the second reasons why I attend PPE is the education. If I had the cash, obviously, I would register literally for all of the workshops they had offered, because education is like the key of success. Now, I'm not a most focused photographer in headshots right now, so I didn't really push myself to talk in too much on headshots at PPE this year. Now, if Dylan Patrick was there, that would be more interesting. At least cinematic headshots has more interest for me personally than studio headshots. Studio headshots is already overdone in my area, where it's already devalued by the market, unfortunately. So cinematic headshots is not right now, and not that many people do it. That's why I'm more intrigued into the cinematic headshots, and I get more bang for my buck than a studio headshot and stuff like that. This really intrigued me. This is like probably the number 2 thing that intrigued me. This is probably the number one thing that intrigued me, excluding the Sony cameras. This is gonna be a big thing in my opinion. Obviously, if it's affordable, I'm not sure. If it's affordable, then a lot of either event photographers are gonna do it, or photo booth. They're not photographers, more like it. They're more like business people. Photo booth businesses are definitely going to get one of these, or at least they should, because this is an interaction, engagement. That's going to be a huge, huge future. This is only the beginning. If you're looking at the footage right now, it's a lot of interaction, a lot of engagement, and that's the future. Trust me. Get this, and you would get gold, literally. Now, hopefully, I don't know the prices of it. I do recommend looking it up and see if it's profitable for your market. Now, if it's not, then I don't recommend it. It really depends. Obviously, people are more or less willing to pay for certain prices on certain things, but this item right here in a certain market would definitely destroy either other event photographers or destroy people who are offering photo booth services, because interaction is a huge bonus and engagement. This would not just cause engagement and interaction just by the user itself, but people around them. And they're going to get more people, and then more people, and then more people. Fire. Gold. Get this. You will not regret it, especially if you can afford it. Alright, now these are the Lastolite Easy Boxes. I personally own one of these, the 30x30 softbox, for the past few years. Unfortunately, the first 6 months it started to warp. I thought it was normal, so I let it go, unfortunately. And I later realized when I asked one of these guys at PPE about it, and they told me to call Photo, to look into the warranty and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's been 3 years since I owned the Easy Box, so I'm out of warranty because the warranty is 2 years. Unfortunately, I should have called as soon as it started to warp, but that's a big warning to people who are planning to get one of these. It could warp. And if it starts to warp, it's not a good thing. I do recommend calling Photo to see if you can get replaced. It's not supposed to do that, apparently. And they recommended me to just unbend it back, basically, on its own. And hope for the best. Because it's out of warranty. They can't do anything. But I highly recommend it. It's really good product. It's been very helpful on location shooting with speedlights. I use it with my speedlight. Let's move on to the next. Alright, now Sigma was the #1 focus for a lot of people. Probably everyone. I called it last year's PPE that this year's PPE was gonna either PPE or before or after PPE it was gonna get announced. Now this wasn't announced at PPE. It was announced at the previous for the Keynote, I think. And I already knew it was coming this year. I already knew it. Because they had to. Because it was way on high demand. Now, besides the B footage I have here, I'll show you my sample images that I shot with the 8514 Sigma art. You see right here is some sharp, obviously. And these are straight out of the camera. No editing at all. Now you'll see most of them are pretty sharp. These are 1.4. Think about it. 1.4. Most of the time, if you normally shoot at 1.4, 1.2, 1.8 even sometimes 2.8, most lenses won't capture tack sharp images most of the time. It's not possible. I shot on this 85-1.4 and it was tack sharp at least 6 out of 10 times. That's impressive. And I was shooting not too fast. Obviously, I was using it on single AF mode. I was shooting on my Canon 6D. And it's full frame if you don't know about the 6D. So it's full perspective. So it's not a crop sensor where it's going to cut the perspective. So as you can see, all that bokeh. Super, super creamy bokeh. I love the lens. I definitely want it. Could I afford it? I'm not sure yet. I highly recommend it. I'm not sure. I do want to compare it to the 85-1.8 Tamron eventually and see how it would compete, honestly. Obviously, and then compare the prices and stuff like that. See if it's worth it, but based on tack sharpness and speed, it's really good. Obviously, the down part is everyone's saying. I also agree, but I'm not an event shooter, so this issue where weight, it's pretty heavy. It's not an issue for me because I don't shoot events, so I'm not shooting like 5, 6, 7 hours. So I'm shooting between 1 to 3 at most. Highly recommend it. Look into it. Rent it. Now, before I had a chance to grab and play with a A7R2 and A7S2, it was extremely crowded, as you can see here. Very, very crowded most of the time. It was very hard to get in and play with one. Now, at the time, I'm not a Sony user, so I wasn't sure which one was an A7R or S2. It was very confusing because they have the naming mechanism is very different than the Canon and Nikon would. So I wasn't sure how to get in and play with one of them. So I eventually got in and got lucky a little bit, and then eventually got it and played with it, as you can see here in the B footage. All right, these are iKan. I can't pronounce it. iKan. I'm not sure. They sell lights, gimbals, and stuff like sliders. Now, what intrigued me, obviously, what this guy was holding and playing with. I definitely want it, obviously, but it's like $900 to $1,000. So I couldn't afford it, and nor it's really tough to say if it's worth it, because like bigger brands are pretty much the same price. That's pretty equal. So I don't know iKan, or because I don't shoot video, so I don't know a whole lot of companies around there. So I assumed it was gonna be a little cheaper because less brand recognition would be cheaper. That's what I would assume. But if I had the cash, I would definitely own one of these. That's what intrigued me on that. I definitely recommend looking into it. At least the gimbal. I'm not sure about the lighting. Didn't look into it too much. What intrigued me was the gimbal, obviously, because he was playing with it and out and about with it. Now they were also doing a giveaway, and I participated in it, and obviously I lost. Not surprised, but they had a slider, which as one of the prizes, which I didn't even see it because it was probably covered on the other side by a huge crowd. So that slider looked really interesting. I do recommend looking these guys up and checking them out. And I think that's it, guys. That's the review, and it was an okay. It's smaller than last year, definitely. As on the right side, if you go in on the right side, it used to be all vendors. This year, no vendors, so you're missing a good chunk, probably 20%. I have no idea why. That's more of an internal thing. Could be, who knows? Maybe they raised prices and they wanted to lower the vendors, or kept prices, but not enough vendors were interested. It depends. We don't know. That's completely internal. So it was a little smaller. I mostly enjoyed the opportunity of meeting the greats, the famous photographers, obviously, and learning from them, talking with them, interacting with them. That was the best. That's worth the trip. Even if I was living in California and traveling to New York City. But I could have easily just gone to the WPPI if I was in California. So it's a lot easier and cheaper. But I'm in Pennsylvania, so the trip is like 3-hour drive, or actually 2-hour drive going towards Manhattan. So it's not bad. Definitely worth it. I was there for like almost a week. Definitely was shooting models before or after the show. Now, I did miss Saturday's show because I was super physically exhausted from the day from the day before from the show. Super exhausted. I could not walk, so I missed most of the day. But I was still eventually heading out to the show, as I was trying to get there probably before, like 2-3 hours before it was about to close at 5 o'clock. And then I got a call from a model, and then I headed down to that area, which is 5th Avenue, by the Apple Store, and then got some shots. If you can see some shots from here, you'll see some shots from that shoot. You'll see some shots, the day before and then the day after. I did 3 shoots, all 3 days of the expo. I shot before or after the show, or during the show, basically. Let's check out some shots right here, and check out my Instagram, check out my Facebook, and all that yummy stuff. Follow me, stalk me, whatever. Just don't stalk me when I'm gonna shoot, basically. Just social stalk me, basically, guys. All right. Any questions, comments, concerns? Just hit up in the comments. Peace out, guys.